Hello, you're most welcome to this session. And in this session, we're going to look at a practical example or a live example of the application of the different tools or the different formulas that we've learned so far in Microsoft Excel. You're presented with a question whereby it says a software company in Buloba has recruited 7 software engineering students from African University for a project. The terms of their employments are as follows. Each engineering student receives a basic salary, a housing allowance of 20% of the basic salary, a transport allowance, which is 8% of the basic salary, health insurance allowance, which is 10% of the basic salary, and a lunch allowance, which is 15% of the basic salary. Additionally, they receive a bonus of 10% of the basic salary. However, each engineering student is subjected to a pay deduction of 25%, the gross salary, or I mean of the gross salary, and then 7% of the gross salary goes into NSSF. So, not NSSF, rather, National Health Insurance Fund, that is NHIF, National Health Insurance Fund. So if that is the case, remember they have given us the basic salary here. We see the basic salary of each student. They are telling us, the very first question is telling us to present this data in a suitable Excel format. So we're supposed to present this data in a suitable Excel format. Number 2, they are telling us to calculate the total allowance of each person. Then they are also telling us calculate the gross salary of each person, calculate the total deduction of each person, calculate the net salary of each person, calculate the average net salary of each person, find the total money the software company pays out every month, find out how much money is remitted into URA, find out how much money is remitted into NHIF. Then lastly, represent this information on a column graph based on the column of employee's name and net salary. Give the graph the title April Pay. So this is what we're supposed to do. Let's start by answering the very first question. Present this data in a suitable Excel format. Now, when we open our Excel, of course, we see the information that has been given to us already. We see name and then basic salary. That one has been given according to the Word document that we have. We have the name of the employees and then the basic salary. We also have the serial number. So that is what we've put in Excel so far. We go to the next part of the question, which is saying calculate the total allowances of each person. If we look at the allowances, we have the very first allowance, which is housing allowance. We're going to, for making this not look very long, I'm going to abbreviate it as housing allowance, HA, for housing allowance. You can write it in full if you wish to. It's very okay. Oh, okay, for clarity, let me write it in full as well. Housing allowance. We're going to put here our housing allowance. Let me not abbreviate and cause confusion. So we have our housing allowance here. Then we move to they're saying housing allowance is 20%. Let me indicate it somewhere. We're going to put here 20 equals to 20%. That is our housing allowance. What's the next allowance that we're having here? We see transport allowance. And they're telling us transport allowance is 8%. So we're going to put here our transport allowance. And then we are going to, we know very well it's 8%. as it's written the other side, 8%. What's the next allowance? Let's look for it. The next allowance is health insurance allowance. Health insurance allowance after the transport allowance. So we're going to have it here. And health insurance allowance, they're telling us it's 10% of the basic salary. So we know here it's 10% of the basic salary. We move to another allowance, which is lunch allowance. And then when we see lunch allowance, what is the percentage for lunch allowance? 15% of the basic salary. 15% of the basic salary we close. We move to another allowance. What's the other allowance? That was lunch. Additionally, they receive a bonus. So we have bonus somewhere. Bonus, and they're telling us the bonus is 10% of the basic salary. Okay, we know our bonus is 10% of the basic salary. So 10% of the basic salary. These are the allowances that we have, and we are told to calculate the different allowances. So I'm going to put a border around our work like this. Let's see, yeah. And then they are saying housing allowance is 20% of the basic salary. Housing allowance. Okay, let me maintain it like this. Okay, we shall say equal sign, open brackets. We have our basic salary here. Oh, okay, 10% of the basic salary, 20% of the basic salary. We shall say 20 divided by 100. Close the bracket. We multiply it by our basic allowance. Hit enter. We're going to get that. We autofill. We come down here to transport allowance, which is the next, and they told us it's 8%. So if that is the case, we're going to say equal sign, open bracket, 8 over 100, close bracket, we multiply it by this, and then we're going to hit enter, multiplied by our basic salary, hit enter, we're going to get transport allowance, we autofill, and then we come to health insurance allowance. And under health insurance allowance, they said it's 10% of the basic salary. So which is equal sign, open bracket, we have 10 divided by 100, close bracket, we multiply it by our basic salary, hit enter, we're going to get that. We autofill coming downwards. Then we come to lunch allowance, which is 10%. 15% equal sign, open brackets, 15 divided by 100. We close the bracket. We multiply it by a basic salary, which is D5, hit enter. And that is the value we are getting for lunch allowance. Then lastly, we have bonus. And for the bonus, we're going to say equal sign, open bracket, then we multiply it by we multiply, we're going to get 10 divide by 100, close bracket, we multiply it by our D5, which is our basic salary, D5, hit enter, and then we're going to get that value. Let me just confirm it's D5. Yes, it's D5. We hit enter, and then we get that value. We also autofill just like we've done with the rest. So what's going to be our total? Let's see the question. What were they asking? Okay, we're supposed to calculate the total allowance of each person. So we have gotten the allowances. Can we calculate the total allowance? We're going to put here total allowance. I autofill. I mean, okay, we already have a table around it. What we're going to do next is, okay, I'm going to get the total where we're going to say equal sign sum, open brackets. Remember, when you're calculating the total allowance, please just sum up the allowances. Do not include the basic salary in the allowance. The basic salary is not part of the allowance. So we're going to sum up the different allowances that we have up to the last, which is from E5 to I5. We close bracket, hit enter. We have our total allowance here given to us. Then we move to the next item, the next question which we've been asked, which is calculate the gross salary for each person. Now, let's move to the gross salary. When we come to gross salary, here we're going to get the total, the allowances plus our basic salary to get the gross salary. So let's get equal sign sum, open bracket. There are two approaches you can do this. One is you're going to get your basic salary and add to it the different allowances up to the last allowance, which is giving it a range which is running from D5 because our gross salary is from D5, and our allowances start from there up to I5. So you can bring it up to I5. That is one way of doing it. You close bracket, you hit enter, you're going to get your gross salary. But the other way of doing it, or the other alternative, will be you just get your basic salary, which is in D5, and then you add to it the total allowance, because we already calculated total allowance. That is what we calculated before coming to this question. So you add the two, total allowance plus basic salary, close bracket, hit enter, and then you're going to get your answer like that. You autofill. Okay, that question has been answered. Let's move to this other question, which is saying calculate the total deduction for each person. Remember, we already have deductions given to us here. We have a deduction of 20%, which is given to payee. Then we also have 7%, which is given to National Hospital Insurance Fund, National Hospital Insurance Fund. If that is the case, let's include the two in our calculations. We have here payee, which is the deduction. We add it here. Then we also come and get our NHIF, which is National Hospital Insurance Fund. We get it, we also put it somewhere here, and then we create a table around it, and then we calculate. What did they say? Which calculation? What are we basing on to calculate that? Okay, let's read together. Here it says, however, each engineering student is subjected to a pay of 25% of the gross salary. Remember, this time we are not looking at basic salary, we are looking at gross salary. So 25% of the gross salary goes into pay. So we're going to say equal sign 25 equal sign open bracket 25 divide by 100 close bracket. We are multiplying it by our gross salary. Where is our gross salary? It is here. We calculated it before coming to this point. Hit enter, and then we're going to get the amount which is supposed to go to payee. Let's come to NHIF, and they're telling us and 7% of the gross salary goes into NHIF. Okay, so we're going to say equal sign open bracket 7 divide by 100 close our bracket. We multiply it by our gross salary, hit enter, and then we're going to get that value there. But remember, the question that we are trying to answer is calculate the total deduction of each person. So we are supposed to sum up the payee and NHIF. We are supposed to sum them up because those are the two deductions that we have. So we're going to say we are going to, where is the record? Okay, we're going to sum them up. We're going to say total deduction. We're going to say total deduction. Total deduction, then we are going to get the sum of the two, equal sign sum open brackets. We get this 2, which is L5 to M5, close bracket, hit enter, we get our total deduction. We autofill. Okay, we are done with the total deduction. What we're going to move to next is the this question here, which is saying calculate the net salary of each person. So we're supposed to calculate the net salary of each person. And what is net salary? The gross salary minus the total deductions. That is when we get the net salary. So we're going to say net salary. Then we're going to put a table around our work, just like we've been doing, to keep our work neat and well organized. So we're going to say equal sign open bracket. We get our gross salary minus total deduction. We close the bracket, hit enter, and then we get our net salary. Okay, we move to the next question. Calculate the average net salary. So we're going to the column of net salary, and then we calculate the average. We're going to say equal sign average. We know the formula for average is equal sign average open bracket. We give it a range in the column of net salary, close bracket, hit enter, and then we have our value here for net average net salary. So remember, this is what the question is asking. We have to put it next to it, net average net salary. You don't just get the answer and leave it hanging. You need to indicate what that answer represents. So I'm going to merge these cells, and then I have my answer here. Okay. Okay, because of the merging, let me do this. Okay, I have my net average salary. It still fits in that place. I highlight and then create a table around it. Let's move to the next question. Find the total money the software company pays out every month. So we are seeing the total amount of money which is paid every month. For us to get that total, we have to get it. It's the grand total of the gross salary, not the net salary, because the net salary, when we look at the net salary, deductions are already made. But if we want to see the total amount of money that the company pays, we have to go into the column of gross salary. So because even the total deduction is part of the payment of the company, it's made by the company. If the company is paying you 1 million, then the government deducts, let's say 300, and then you get 700. Much as you're getting 700 doesn't mean that 700 is what the company paid you. The company actually paid you 1 million, then the government did its own deductions, and you ended up with your 700. So we're going to say equal sign sum, open brackets. We're going to sum up the gross salary, close, and then this is the total amount the organization pays. Let me say organization pays this amount at the end of the month towards salary. Okay, that we have already answered that question. Find the total money. Okay, that's what we've just answered. Find out how much money is remitted to URA. Okay, that is our payee. Let's come and get the total amount which is remitted to URA. We shall come here to payee. So equal sign sum, open bracket, select it, select that range, close bracket, hit enter. This is the total amount paid to URA. Let me put in bracket, payee, close our bracket. So this is the amount. Then we come to this question here, which is saying find out how much money is remitted to NHIF. Okay, we also have that section which is here. For that, I'm going to calculate it down here. I'm going to say equal sign sum, open bracket, then I sum up all this, I close my bracket, hit enter, and I see the amount. So this is paid to NHIF, that is paid towards that. I click OK. After clicking OK, that is what I have so far. Then I will come to the last question now, which is saying present this information on a column graph based on the column of employee name and net salary, and then give it the title Apple Pay. So we are looking at the column of employee's name and net salary. I'll come to where we have employee's name. From the very first person, please do not include the word name. From the very first person, all down, shift and then select. Rather, you highlight first of all, you just hold down left click on your keyboard, select. Then you hold down control, you take your cursor to where we have net salary. Net salary is around here. Hold down control while the names are selected. You also come and select net salary. Select it. After selecting it, you can let go of the control key and then you come to insert. From insert, you come, these are the different graphs that we have. The one we're interested in is this one, the column graph. Click the arrow pointing down and then select any of these under column graph. For me, I'm going to go for this. And now we have that information presented for us on a column graph. But then we're supposed to put a title which was saying April Pay. So I'm going to put my cursor here where it's saying chart title. And I'm going to write here the word Apple Pay. I'm going to put here Apple Pay, and then before you know it, we have put our title. You can go ahead and beautify it if you want, maybe make it red, maybe underline it, maybe make it bold, increase the font size. It's entirely up to you what you want to do with it. At the end of it all, you can now save this work and submit. That is basically looking at a real life approach to the most of the tools that we've covered so far in our computer literacy, or most of the formulas we've covered so far. So let's meet in the next lecture. Thank you.